Welcome back to the Thoughtful Journey podcast. My name is Tyler. This is Justice right here. Today is episode 11, and we're going to be talking about the crazy year of 2020 and how it potentially changed the world forever.
Yep.
Society. Elephant in the room, COVID. You know, what did, from your perspective of COVID, how did that impact everything in society?
Well, in my daily life, living in Oklahoma, wasn't too crazy, honestly. I kept working. Marissa, she stopped working, but I got promoted to takeout at the restaurant I was working at that time period, and takeout was booming. So I was, essential worker, and I worked through the whole thing. I mean, I kept the mask on. We put up partitions and things like that. No one was coming into the restaurant for a month or two, but really, I just kept working, and my life didn't change too much. But when it comes to the world, when it comes to other states, when it comes to people's stories I've heard that lived in different states and bigger cities during that time period, it's huge. They didn't do anything. A lot of people in the big cities thought the world was ending, because at the same time as the lockdowns were happening, you had all these protests and civil unrest, and the election and everything was all in that time period. So for me, life was okay. It changed, but I still kept working, and everything was pretty normal because we live here in Oklahoma.
Right.
But other states and other places, everything changed.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a restaurant too, so obviously I kept, kept working through it. And like you said, here in Oklahoma, I mean, there was things like, certain things were closing down early, and there was limits of how many people could be in certain places at once, and the mask and all the 6-foot stuff and all that. But my cousin, actually, one of my cousins lived in New Mexico at the time, and it was like you were in your house, you couldn't do anything. You could not leave your house for months.
Yeah.
And I think that COVID, there was a lot of statistics about the impact of it, of death tolls and stuff like that. And surprisingly enough, when I was trying to find legit data on this, it was completely 50-50, and it wasn't there was no one in the middle. There was people saying, oh, the death tolls are way overinflated, and then there's people saying that, not that those people are lying, but they're way underinflated. There was way more deaths from COVID than what they say. And then there's other people on the complete opposite side that are there's way more. And there you can find research and data for both. And it's just so weird. So my conclusion from that was someone's lying. They're probably both lying, but that's just amazing to me that we still, I couldn't find any legit data on the true impact of the health impact of death and stuff like that.
Interesting. That's really interesting. That's a great point though, because I feel that time period was the most divided and extreme information is.
Well, even today, I mean, I couldn't find anything.
Looking it up now, 4 years later. Well, and I remember watching a local news, because I was living at my grandma's at the time. We didn't have our place yet, and I just gotten back from the oil field not too long before COVID and all that started. And we're living at my grandma's. My Nana, she watches the news on a daily basis, the local news, and they would have the death ticker on the news channel, just going up every day. And now we know there was definitely people I know people personally that had family members that died from COVID. That they already had some health issues. Some of those people, some didn't, but I know that happened. But we also know that there's some deaths that happened related to a heart attack that were considered COVID because they and different things like that. So the information's all muddied and skewed. So there's really it makes sense that it's difficult to find.
Because I saw stuff someone would die from a motorcycle accident, and they just happened to have COVID. But they died from being in a motorcycle wreck.
But that adds to that ticker.
But they added it to the death toll of COVID. And then you got other people saying that since they only considered death after 28 days of a positive test, that people still died from COVID even though it was 28 days after they tested positive.
That's insane.
So it's both sides are it's crazy. But honestly, more to talk about with it, I think the more interesting side of it is how it impacted society, the socially, and the economy for sure.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, I feel like life's different a little bit now than it was before, you know, like
Right.
things just don't feel the same. I think specifically like socially,
Right.
like I feel like that was a huge, especially for the younger kids, you know.
Oh yeah. Well,
like not getting to.
It's proven that like seeing facial, you know, like people talking and how their face reacts to certain things, like especially when you're super young, developmentally that helps you like learn how to communicate. That's a huge part of your development. Like you're a baby learning to talk, watching people's face as they talk and what emotions they express, things like that's important. And there's a whole generation of kids that missed out on that for that time period, missed out on school for that time period, missed out on all that stuff. So who knows? We're going to see in the future what repercussions that has on, you know.
Yeah, like technology, it was already bad enough where kids were always on their iPads or whatever.
Right.
And that had to have ramped it up times 10, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like I've seen it firsthand with my my little sister, who, you know, she was a young, 4 years? She was like 3, 4
during that time
when that happened, you know, and like, she's super, like all she wants to do is watch TV or be on her iPad, you know, like, it's very. Now, I mean, like, it does matter on the parent too, because like I feel like my parents do, my dad and stepmom do, from what I've seen being around it, a good job of like limiting that time and stuff. But like that's what she wants all the time.
Right.
Is to watch TV, or like be on the iPad. She would rather do that than like go outside and play most of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's scary.
That is scary. And like you said, socially too, I noticed with adults just interacting with some people out and about, it's like, you just can tell that some people are still, like you generally, before COVID, I feel like you'd run into someone like our age or younger, and okay, they seem a little socially awkward because we've been raised on social media and stuff like that. But generally, older people, you never felt that, because I worked in the restaurant industry, you worked in the restaurant industry. Then after that, you could tell that there were some people that were older that generally, if you talk to an older person that had the same social issues I would see in people our age and younger. And a lot of that for being stuck inside, being stuck on screens. Here in Oklahoma, again, it wasn't as big of a difference. But I had friends that lived in big cities at the time of all of that, and saying that, like, the protest, Trump becoming president, being locked inside, not being able to go do anything, it was like the world was ending, you know? And I can only imagine the impact that had on those people that lived in those places. And people in California are now moving to southern states in droves, like here, Texas, and, you know, that's probably part of the reason too.
I've met a lot of people, dude.
Oh yeah.
For that moved here from California. It's crazy.
I work in the agency I work for, like, we directly work with people, you know, that are starting with this state, like moving into the state.
Okay.
And see a ton, bro.
Yeah.
Especially Tulsa, tons and tons. It's crazy. It really is. And it's just, it you know, those places have fallen apart, but hopefully those people move to these places with hope for better and new and changing ideas versus wanting to uphold the same ideals from the old places. Because if that's the case, we're going to see some problems. But
yeah, I mean, I still work in like you know, I see people all the time. Like I work in sales, so I work with people, customers all the time, and like, dude, I'm genuinely shocked how like socially inept so many people are.
Right.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like whether it be lack of respect, improper grammar, like to a point where it's like, okay, like
not
did you make it through school? You know what I mean? Like it's bad. Like the way people talk, and like the people are so disrespectful too. I feel like not everyone, but like more than there should be. Like there's just people that have no like knowledge. They don't get people. They don't know, you know, like they just don't know how to like communicate with people. And it's crazy. Yeah,
that kind of mutual social interaction, mutual respect type of thing. Yeah. And that's always been a thing too, but I feel like that whole period of lockdowns definitely made that worse, you know, definitely made that more prevalent in a lot of people. And we have a lot of interesting statistics and research that we did for this video as well, and it's just everything. If you put all of it together, all of the stuff that happened in that time period, I mean, we're still yet to see the effects of really what we went through. You know, it seems like a lot of people try to put it behind them, move forward, which is good, but when it comes to those kids that grew up in that time period without school, without facial features or, you know, any of those things for them to learn from, and then like we're going to see the effects of that in the 2030s, you know, like.
Yeah, for sure. And then also the economic impact.
Yes.
You kind of want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I have some stats here. Want to give a quick shout out to James Corbett and John Titus. Those are my main sources of information when it comes to a lot of topics, but specifically the 2008 financial crisis and 2020. John Titus has amazing in-depth research and well-done videos about these topics. Some of the stuff that we were reading and learning was that at the beginning of COVID, the Federal Reserve printed $940 billion in 2 weeks. The previous record in 2 weeks was $510 billion in 2008. So 2008 was a significant financial, you know, crisis. But 2020, we almost doubled the amount of money that was just made to fix that problem, you know. And to
within a 2 week time period.
Within 2 weeks, yeah. And to put that into perspective, the Federal Reserve took 100 years to print $4.5 trillion. In 2020, in that 2 week time period, they got that up to $5.25 trillion. So around 20% increase in the total amount of money printed in 2 weeks occurred at the beginning of COVID. Ever. Yeah.
Amount of money printed ever.
So it took 100 years for 4.5 trillion to come about. Then we have 2 weeks happen, COVID starts, 5.25 trillion. That's a huge red flag. That's a huge, you know, okay, what the hell is going on in the background? You know, because the people are dealing with these problems, but in the background, this is what's happening financially. The Federal Reserve is doing this. In April of 2022, it got up to 8.9 trillion. So think about that. It took 100 years to get to 4.5 trillion. And 2020 happens, 2 weeks, we're at 5.25 trillion. Fast forward 2 years to April of 2022, and we're up to 8.9 trillion total dollars in circulation. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. So we doubled it in 2 years. The amount of money that took 100 years to print, we doubled in 2 years, you know.
And for those that, I'm not like the most economically educated, but it's not a good thing that there's more money circulating. No. Just to let people know if you don't know.
Well, I mean, think about, we're seeing the impact of...
That's inflation.
Right.
Is what and then also the fact that we have no reserve like gold anymore to back up the dollar. It's just...
Right. We're just printing.
It's just, it's just paper.
Yeah. That is really scary because there is a silver lining in this. I'll get to that. But with this, in 2 years, they double the amount of money in circulation. We're seeing now, 2 years after that, 2024, that's in 2022 when we got up to 8 trillion.
Yeah.
2024, we're now seeing inflation when it comes to grocery store prices. Gas has been kind of reasonable, honestly, so that's been nice. But we're seeing the impact of it. And
we live in Oklahoma too, where
it's
typically it's on the lower side of things. Yeah.
The cheapest place. Yeah. So that is very interesting. But again, to make this point again, we're yet to see the long-term repercussion of that. Like the 2030s are probably going to be hard.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see any other way around that because we're seeing the direct immediate impact. We don't know what the long-term implications of that are. Like grow chickens up huge, but like what else is going to, you know, be affected? I mean, housing market is affected, but the reason the housing market isn't affected, we can get into as well.
Interest rates for loans and stuff are insane.
Yeah.
Even people with like really good credit scores, you know, you're still looking at a pretty high interest rate on homes or cars or whatever.
And unless you have the money to make double payments and pay it down aggressively, you're going to pay that interest rate, which is going to be more than your total loan amount.
Yeah.
We did the math on our house, And we got a great interest rate. During COVID is whenever we got our home and everything. We got a 3.5% interest rate. That's still, in the term of the loan, would equal the same amount of money the house cost. So like if we were just to not pay it down aggressively and pay it over the full term of the loan, that interest would be a little more than what the actual house we
at
got
3.5?
At 3.5%. So yeah, put that into perspective. And it's a long-term loan, so it makes sense. But put that in perspective for now we have 7%. Now we have 8%, you know. Like,
yeah.
It's insane.
Well, that's like, oh, you have a pretty good credit score, 7%.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, you know, that's like the average.
Right, and that's for like a mortgage or a car loan.
Yeah.
Personal loans are like 10 to 13%.
Oh,
yeah. I was looking at loans for little things and shopping around at banks. 10% on the low end, 13% on the average end of getting a personal loan. So you're talking 7 to 8% for a mortgage or a car, but you need a personal loan for something the bank won't approve, like a mortgage or a car. You need something separate from that. Yeah, you're looking at 10 to 13% on that, which is brutal.
Did you see the tax, the grocery tax in Oklahoma? They removed the tax for grocery tax in Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah, the governor passed it.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that.
I'll look it up real quick.
But just to finish up the economic point of 2020, so we talked about, we printed $940 billion in 2 weeks. The Federal Reserve took 100 years to print 4.5 trillion. 2020, they got to 5.25. Right in 2022, they got to 8.9 trillion. And then August of 2019 is when the Fed approved some of these things that caused all of those huge sums of money. But tell me about the grocery store.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah. So the governor signed a bill that will reduce the state sales tax on food and food ingredients to 0% effective August 2024.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
I saw that the other day. It's pretty interesting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We live in a very, like, compared to all the other states, our state government has taken care of us. COVID was as good as it could have been. You know, like, that is amazing. To go against interest rates and fucking inflation and all that stuff going through the roof, we're getting no tax on.
Tax.
That's amazing.
The state.
That's amazing. Shout out to Oklahoma. Yeah. I love my state. I'm very happy to live in the state. It might get hot. We might have tornadoes, but it's a beautiful place when it comes to freedom. I don't have an HOA. I could build a fucking huge dick out here out of sticks and nobody would say anything to me. Like, there's nothing. I love this place. But on the economic front of COVID, in 2019, August of 2019, so think about that. Were you in August of 2019? I was in the oil field. COVID wasn't even a thing anyone knew about in that time period. August of 2019 is when the Federal Reserve met in Jackson Hole and BlackRock laid out the plans for this quantitative easing. And BlackRock said in their report at that conference in August of 2019, expect an economic downturn and we're going to need to put money into the economy to prop up the economy. So August of 2019, BlackRock's telling the Federal Reserve, hey, there's going to be a downturn next year. Let's get things rolling. So, and what they did was the Federal Reserve started putting their money, the money they printed, into BlackRock assets, which has never been a thing before. So instead of the Fed printing money and it going out to banks, right?
Right.
Generally it's banks. Banks, you know, obviously are bad. 2008, we'll get into 2008 in a different episode. But this time, instead of giving it to the banks, during COVID, they're like, okay, let's give it to private equity firms. So these private equity firms can prop up the economy through the money we're printing. And that's why we see the issues with the housing crisis. That's why we see houses that are...
Because BlackRock owns a bunch of...
mortgages.
Single family homes, yeah.
And that money came from the Federal Reserve. So our tax dollars, or not even our tax dollars, they just printed that money. So basically our money is less valuable because the Federal Reserve and BlackRock got together and said, hey, next year we're going to have some problems. Give us a bunch of money so we can prop up the economy.
Not only is our money less valuable, now our money's worth less and things cost more.
Right. a two-bedroom home is $300,000.
Yeah.
Like a piece of shit two-bedroom home. Like, that makes no sense. And the reason that's happened is because the Federal Reserve got in touch with BlackRock and the private equity firms and said, hey, we're going to give you a bunch of money to prop up the economy because the economy is going to get bad. That's horrible, dude. But that's why we're seeing all these problems. So we went from 4.5 trillion in 100 years to 2022, 8.9 trillion. And then August of 2019, before COVID even happened, the Federal Reserve got together with BlackRock in Jackson Hole and said, okay, we're going to give you guys a big lump sum of money so you can prop up the economy. And they didn't prop up the economy for me or for you or for a small business. They propped up the economy and made it better for the super rich, you know. They propped up, BlackRock owns a bunch of homes now.
Yeah.
You know, like Bill Gates made tons of money off the vaccines.
They control the market price of, you know, housing now. So it's like, of course it's going to go up.
Yeah, of course. They own, my grandfather owns homes, you know, he rents out homes. And he said that it's so rare to have a local landlord nowadays, and he gets offers from those companies all the time on his homes that he has, like constantly. He says weekly he's declining phone calls because people are calling him trying to buy those houses from those firms that are trying to. So it's like your local landlords are gone, and guess what? The local landlord's the person who's going to give you a break on rent for that month if, you know, they trust you and you're doing okay. That company is not going to give a shit about you not being able to make that rent payment. And yeah, we're just facing this issue now and it really pisses me off that people my age, people our age, are unable to see themselves buying a home and doing things they want to do because all these decisions that were made outside of the people's, you know, wants and needs. It's really messed up. And to talk about the vaccines, Bill Gates made a ton of money off the vaccines, you know, with his investments in Pfizer and different companies like that, and then happened just to sell at just the right time. Whoop-de-doo, you know. But like, looking at all of that, it just really puts into perspective how big 2020 was, you know, how big COVID was. It was so much more than the pandemic. It was so much more. Yeah,
so much more. I mean, obviously the lockdown, because it all adds up, you know. The lockdown is going to cause the social aspect of things, businesses to fail, stuff like that. And then you got the economy, inflation and all that, on top of the fact that the social stuff that was going on with like Black Lives Matter, which, I mean, like, you add all that up together, I mean, it caused a fucking crazy year. And like,
serious damage.
It was an election year. Like, I mean,
Trump
like,
came into office, people thought the world was ending.
Well, Trump came in 2016.
2016. Oh yeah, okay. Biden came in 2020.
Biden came in.
I'm sorry. I was off on that. I was just thinking of the memes of people screaming when Trump got elected. But the thing about that too is something I find really interesting. This was pointed out by James Corbett. Was Trump is the one who signed in the Operation Warp Speed or Project Warp Speed, which is what got the vaccines to be pushed out and, you know, not undergo the normal trials and testing, but get them out faster, and still stands by that. I would say a lot of Trump supporters are people who are against the vaccine and it being rolled out the way it was, but that he's the guy who signed in Warp Speed and got that all to go through. So it's, I just don't understand the cognitive dissonance there where Trump's the savior. I think he's a better option, a better alternative than a guy who has Alzheimer's, like, and is like falling apart. But if you look at what he did, like, he said he was going to free Julian Assange. He didn't do anything about Julian Assange. Actually, the person he put in charge of the CIA was involved in getting Julian Assange put in jail in that time period. And then Operation Warp Speed increased the vaccine rollout and increased the money that those companies could make. That's the opposite of what all the people that support him say, but he's become more than what he actually did. Like, his character has become more than what he's actually even done. You know what I mean? It's super interesting.
Well, I think it's more, I feel like a lot of the love for him too is more just like people that just it's so hard to like Biden, or it's so easy to hate Biden. That it makes it a lot easier to love Trump, you know?
Because you dislike the other side so much. This guy's better no matter what,
So then, you know, whatever you hear or see, therefore you just follow it. But I mean, personal opinion, Larry Fink has more power than them, but...
Absolutely.
CEO of BlackRock, but...
Well, and the old money families, you know, like BlackRock's a new thing. Like, we got the Rockefellers, things like that, like...
Rothschilds.
There's people with way more money, way more power and influence than the president could ever have. You know, and
not to mention the fact they have 4-year run.
Right.
So even if they could do stuff in that 4 years, they have 4 years.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things, that's not.
No.
Yeah, that's not much.
Okay. Biden signed in more legislation than any other president ever, right? How much of that's just going to be thrown out when the next president comes
Yeah, exactly.
in? Like, what is that actually? It makes a difference for that 4 years, and there are implications that make a difference for 10 years. But I mean, it's in the reality, it's the people at the top of the ladder that are making the difference. That's why you see billionaires hold themselves the way they do.
Because Larry Fink or BlackRock, they could go to the Federal Reserve and meet with them and
right.
agree to have them invest in them so they can buy houses
and to prop up the economy.
Yeah, prop up the economy. I mean,
and in the Federal Reserve's transcript, it's saying that they're doing that. The reasoning for doing that was to prop up the economy for small businesses and people, like average people. That's the same thing they said about the 2008 financial crisis.
So raising people's rent, it's a great way to.
Yeah, that's going to help people out. Yeah, and then not even to mention the small business loans that like FaZe got millions of dollars for. That was like the COVID small business relief loans. That's a whole other can of worms where a bunch of big businesses got these small business relief loans, and then a bunch of small businesses like mom and pop restaurants and stuff went out of business and didn't receive them. I mean, there was so much corruption and BS in that time period, and we just covered a lot of the financial aspect and a lot of the social aspect. But I mean, there's so much to it. Hopper even has more notes on some other things that occurred in that time period when it comes to social media, and very interesting stuff. You want to get into some of that?
Yeah, for sure. We will get into that shortly.
But yeah, those points, Hopper, that you've got a lot of them. Go ahead with some of the research you've done.
So, as we all know, TikTok also became, because of the lockdowns, and people gravitated towards TikTok tremendously. You know, like it became the biggest thing in the world.
Right.
And the first thing I wanted to talk about was Patrick Bet-David, YouTuber we talked about before, YouTuber, influencer, businessman, all kinds of things, entrepreneur. He ran a experiment where he noticed when he posted a video saying negative things about China, he noticed his views were dropping on TikTok and like tremendously. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to put this to the test. He put the exact, and like before posting that video, he was like getting like hundreds of thousands of views on like every video.
Right.
And so the experiment was he was going to put the exact same clip on Instagram and TikTok where he had like the same amount of followers.
Okay.
And so this is before the China video. From June 7th to August 5th, he had 9 videos over 1 million views, 45 videos over from 100K to 1 million, and 111 videos from 20K to 100K.
This is on TikTok?
Yeah, on TikTok.
Okay.
And then 99 videos from 0 to 20K. And then after the month following that, after the China video, he had 1 video hit 100K. He had 2 videos hit 20 to 100K, and 720 video clips that were 0 to 220K.
That's crazy.
So he had 99 videos from 0 to 20K to 720.
So obviously some form of algorithm silencing due to discrediting.
And then from the direct comparison, exact same clip from Instagram to TikTok where he had similar amount of followers. And it's actually easier to reach people on TikTok, like even for like smaller people.
Right.
Like it's easier to get more views in general.
Yeah.
So exact same clip, 1.3 million on Instagram, 20,000 on TikTok. 1.5 million on Instagram, 10,000 on TikTok.
That's crazy.
1 million on Instagram, 7,000 on TikTok. 970,000 on Instagram, 15,000 on TikTok. 9.6 million on Instagram, 9,000 on TikTok.
That's wild.
So there was a bunch more. I just pulled like 5 of them.
Right.
Those were like 5 of like, so you know, like that last one for 9.6 million to 9,000 for the exact same clip for like a well-known public figure
with the same
like the same amount of following.
Yeah.
And it's right after he posted a video saying negative things about the Chinese Communist Party.
Right.
And that just goes to show the impact China has on our algorithms.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can find stuff showing that China's algorithm is based around like education and like learning things, and ours is very much, you know, people dancing around and like, you know, doing stuff. Sexual, stupid, pushing social justice movements and stuff. And in their country, they're, oh no, we would never allow that.
Right.
You know, they actually use it in a productive way, and then, but they do control the algorithm because the owner of the company has been in court, you know, like in questioned about how if he has to report to the government, and he admitted that he has to Congress.
Well, he said, well, his answer to Congress too was, I'm from Singapore, I'm not from China.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to do with China. That's complete BS. Yeah. Obviously, those things prove that TikTok is directly related.
Well, and China. it's like law, like whatever what's the company name that owns TikTok?
I don't remember.
It's like the big media. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. They, like, big companies in China are forced to, like, it doesn't say, like, in the law, like, they have to do whatever they say, but it says they have to give them all, like, their data.
Any information.
Any data and information they have to give to the government.
Any information that they request. Any information that, the CCP requests that those companies have to turn over to.
And, like, in the terms and conditions, just a couple things that goes over in there. It tracks your IP address. Has access to your local network, tracks your eye and finger movements. Like, I don't know, man.
That's a lot of data that they could send to whoever needs it. Yeah.
And it's been banned in countries for national security reasons.
Right.
India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Syria. That's 5. You know, a few of the who have an outright ban. And then there's a long list of countries. I think America included, where anyone working with the government cannot have it.
Right.
I think there's probably 100 countries that anyone that works with the government cannot have TikTok.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a reason for that, you know. And, that's why that it has been talked about being banned here.
Right.
Is because national security reasons.
National security reasons, and it doesn't make sense. Like, I've used this comparison a lot. I feel like I've even said it on this podcast a few times. World War II, they dropped paper out of airplanes over cities to try to spread information and misinformation.
Yeah.
Now you just have an app, and you can control what the majority of that nation is watching on a daily basis on their phones. Like, that is crazy. Why would you allow that to be the case, you know? And I've even uninstalled YouTube on my phone. Like, I'm really trying to take a complete distance from social media, stay in touch with James Corbett and his reporting, stay in touch with like John Titus and some of his reporting, like stay in touch with the journalists I trust and know are independent and good sources of information. But it's just, the algorithms are going to affect your personality. They're going to affect how you think about things, whether you like it or not. Like, I noticed on YouTube, the reason I'm taking a break, I love these creators, but I was watching like Oompaville and like Moist Critical and like reaction channels about topics. I'm like, this isn't anything for me. I'm just wasting my time. Like, I love those creators. They're good creators. They're funny, whatever. It's like
entertaining.
It's entertaining, but I just personally, like, I'm in this period of my life where I really want to keep growing and developing and moving forward. And I feel like social media, eventually, even if you use it for the right reasons to start, you're going to get to the slop content where you're just like not learning anything, just watching and scrolling, you know, and that's so counterproductive to life. We have such a limited time here, you know, such a limited amount of time to live on this planet and do what we want to do, and limited amount of time in general. Jobs, like a week ago I worked, 91 hours in 6 days. That's that much time I didn't get to do stuff I wanted to do. You know, I had to do working. Fortunately, I have jobs where I can do stuff that I want to do while I'm working, but like, we don't have a lot of time to do what we want to do. We don't have a lot of time to spend it how we want to spend it. And the more time I spend watching a 30-minute reaction video about something, I might learn a fact or two about the topic, but I'm just watching someone's opinion on something, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm strong enough to not take someone's opinion I watch and make it my own every time, you know, but like still, good Lord. It's just a brutal thing, but what else you got there, Hupper? I see you got quite the...
Oh, just another thing is some studies I saw talking about like the attention span decrease. Just some like what are they called? Surveys or whatever where a bunch of people and
take a test or like respond to something.
Responded stuff and they got like in like adults from like I think it was like 2015 to like 2022 it was like a 25% decrease in attention span
over that
overall.
time period. Yeah, that's insane.
And it's not just TikTok was the beginning and the catalyst for all of it, but now, I mean now all social media has like short form content, but what it is short form content that causes that, and it's crazy that that already, like you were saying earlier, like we haven't seen the long term, but already we're seeing noticeable. I've noticed in my own attention span lacking because of that. So I mean, I can't imagine the people that have TikTok and use it every day what they have noticed their decline in attention span has been.
Have you seen the videos that's like Subway surfers and then like a news topic in the same video in the same TikTok, where like to keep the attention they have Subway surfers going on this side, that app on your phone?
Yeah, I know.
And then on this side of the screen,
like
the same video, they have like a news or like someone reacting to something, and the actual content is someone reacting to something, but to keep the people with such short attention spans, they have Subway
to keep them
surfers
like to not like go to the next video. Oh my God!
So not only is it the 10-second video, it's the 10-second video with 2 forms of stimulus, like you know, like that's directly damaging your
And not to mention, like you were saying earlier, with when you listen to people's opinions enough, it doesn't matter what your intentions were when you started.
Right.
It's gonna, like the same way I've said before, the 5 people you spend the most time with is who you are.
Yeah.
The 5 people you watch on YouTube the most is who you are. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, you listen to them enough, you know, you're going to start to share their same opinions and thoughts on things.
Absolutely.
No matter what, you know, I mean, you can try your best to be like, oh, I'm forming my own, but to form your own, bro, you got to get that from your life.
Right.
You got to live your life and get those.
Live your life, read books for yourself, take your own conclusions from those things. And that's a lot of what I realize too, is I feel like I am conscious enough to check myself on some things where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to repeat this just because this was said. I might repeat a statistic or a fact from this, right? But I'm not going to repeat the point of view from that, like the opinion.
Like the opinion,
of that individual. And I try to be super conscious of that. And even then, I notice that like I'm watching these videos, and I might get some knowledge from it, but I'm just basically writing on the opinion of this person. I don't know. I feel it's just such a weird place to be. And like you said, all of this that we've talked about, what are the long-term implications of these things? You know, like of COVID.
I think we're already seeing them.
Of the economy.
You know, we're already seeing some impacts that are just going to get worse and worse.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, not to mention with the social media being like Facebook when it comes to politics.
Right.
I feel like that was a huge drive for division. Because, you know, people will say things over the phone, over Facebook, that they won't say to someone's face.
Right.
So, you know, you're in COVID locked up at home, and let's say that you're a Republican and you see a Democrat say something, you'll say some crazy shit over Facebook. You know, you'll say some wild shit that you probably wouldn't say to them in person, you know, to their face.
Yeah.
And that just caused more and more division. There's like community feeds about, I mean, like it's insane, bro.
Well, and how in that time period where people were locked up and just using social media and stuff, how many of those people went from being, okay, they're just going to say this on social media to being, okay, now it's a part of their actual personality. You know?
Well, then it becomes what they actually think.
Because they spent a year doing it. Yeah, and it's like before COVID, that person might have had like a half-life on social media, half-life. Their personality differed between the two.
Yeah.
But after COVID, does that mean like them spending that time being that person the majority of that year?
Yeah.
make them more like that social media identity versus themselves, you know, that persona versus who they are. That's just one implication.
That's a dangerous line to walk, because you really, I was never, even when I had social media, I was never like I never was really into it that much.
Right.
Like, you know, I didn't post a whole bunch of stuff and all that, but like, it really is something like that you think about when you're posting something on social media, is like, oh, how is this gonna, you know, how am I gonna look through this post to the people that are gonna see it?
Right.
Rather than like, so you're creating an image that's not you, and that's what people are gonna think you are.
Right.
So like, I've used the example before, like with couples, where I've known couples that either don't have social media or they never post each other on social media. They're the happiest couples I've ever seen in my life. You and Marissa, great example, right? And then I've also, I know a lot of couples that, if you just looked at their Instagrams, you'd be like, oh man, that's the happiest couple I've ever seen. They look so happy.
Right.
Oh, they're arguing every day. They hate each other.
Yeah.
They have so many problems. But you would never know by looking at their Instagram.
Right.
But then you would think the people, they're like, oh, he doesn't post his girlfriend on Instagram. Oh, I wonder what's going on in their and they're the happiest relationship you can think of, you know?
Yeah.
So don't always, the image you see of someone on social media is not who they are. 100% of the time, it's not.
And that's, I think, a huge message.
100%.
I think that's a huge message for younger kids. Like my family, you know, we have younger kids that are growing up in my family, and seeing them talk about like the view count on videos is like the main concern, you know, like the perception on social media is the main concern. It's like, that's not real life. Like Tim Dillon made a great point in the Tucker Carlson podcast that he did, where he said that you used to be able to go to this part of the country and people would be completely different from your part of the country. So it'd be really interesting to meet the people in that part of the country, because you would see something you've never seen before, a new way of looking at things. Now you go to, you know, across to, like, let's say to Ohio, you're going to meet the same people that you would meet in Washington, you know, or like it's just like there are some, like, they're still rednecks, you know, they've held on to their identity. They're still,
well, I think it's more of an impact on the younger
generation,
like
but still
older adolescents and early adults.
Yeah,
I think that's where you'll see the most similar type of people.
I think like 30s, like mid 30s and below, for the most part. And
everything,
then even older people are affected, but they are still affected in the same way they were before. Like,
but they're kind of like, by the time all this came around, they were kind of set in their ways a little bit more than,
so.
But like a lot of people our age, you know, like heavily influenced one way or the other, you know, so like the whole life we could have had the same experience someone living in a completely different state could have had, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we'd be completely different people. But now it's just like, playing games online too, you run into the same archetype of person over and over again. Like same jokes, same quotes, same sayings, like everything. It's like there's no, I was playing PUBG like 4 months ago when I was bored and I was trying to find a game to play. And I was playing with the quads where you team up with people. And I found this trio, and I referred to my Nana, calling her Nana versus Grandma. I referred to her making a dessert she makes called Fluffy, which is just this like pudding mixed with the whipped cream, and then you put mandarin oranges in it and mix it all together. And they were like blown away, like, your Nana? Fluffy? What is Fluffy? Like, and we're so interested in those little things that make me, right? But the smallest things that before wouldn't even been like everyone has their own name for their grandma, you know, in some way, their own, like, but now it's like, what? You got what? Like anything unique about someone is like really interesting, because there's just so across the board the same. The median is so the same. It's just so interesting. And I think that creates opportunities for people who are unique. I think it creates opportunities for people who are themselves, but then you have to post it on social media and like make a brand of it, and like it just feels so fake and so just.
I mean, people, they talk the same, you know.
Same jokes, same
jokes,
same way of speaking,
same verbiage, like same way to say like a certain thing, you know. Those, and for a while it'll be, everyone will say it all the time, and then a new thing will come in. Everyone will say that, and
it's like,
it's crazy.
When I was in high school, you know, you got your stoners and they would say bet, and things like that. And that was more of just that time period, right? But now it's like everybody that's a stoner that acts and talks the same, it seems like for the most part. Like you have a few people that are individuals, but like the weed becomes their identity, and the culture that surrounds weed on social media becomes their identity, the jokes and everything with it. It's just...
That's a good point too, because everyone has a different social media experience because algorithms are specific.
Right.
Typically to people. So like if you're really involved in a community, like as a smoker, that's like the same another smoker's going to get, you know, like you'll fall into that same community, and then instead of being your 10 homies from school, it's thousands and thousands of people, you know, across the country that are all watching the same videos, listening to the same jokes. And,
having the same personality eventually. And speaking
same
about
opinions.
Because I think we've covered a lot of COVID, what happened during COVID, the implications for the future. But talking about social media and the effect on people, let's bring this to something that happened yesterday. So yesterday was the shooting at the Trump rally, right? Happened in Pennsylvania. Some young kid, 20-year-old, shot at the former president during a rally. And there's, there's going to be all kinds of conspiracy. There's going to be all kinds of, but when it comes down to the facts, to ask the questions of that situation, why did a 20-year-old feel motivated to shoot at the former president? And I am genuinely curious to connect to the point we were just talking about. What did his social media algorithms look like?
Yeah.
You know, what these people that go and do these terrible things, what do their feeds look like? Like, what information do they interact with and feed themselves to get to that point? You know, I would be so curious to see that. Whether it's like someone who does a horrible mass shooting, whether it's someone who tried to assassinate the former president, these young people that do these things, what does their social media algorithm look like? I'd be very interested to see that.
Yeah, I mean, like, because it's not like a military, like it's a completely like untrained, just normal 20. From what I saw, obviously I don't know the kid, but like, you know, from what you're able to see right now about
he looks like a ghoul
online,
from Fallout.
Yeah, I mean, he's an odd-looking person, but you know, just looks like a fucking 20-year-old kid, you know?
Right, nerdy.
And from what I was reading, there's no military, there's no like combat training experience. Like this is just some like kid.
Right.
Like, how the fuck do you come to the conclusion that let me go shoot the former president and potential candidate?
Right.
And how the fuck does the Secret Service let an untrained 20-year-old do that?
Right.
First of all,
how do you get the
How that's insane.
Yeah.
And obviously, in our lifetime, we've never seen anything like that. Reagan, what, 81?
81,
was the last president that got shot, and it's like, that's crazy.
It's insane.
And not to mention the fact that a random bystander died.
Right.
And as that person's lying on the ground, dead, as soon as Trump gets up and pumps his fist, the crowd starts chanting USA, USA, as there's someone right in front of them dead that just got killed from
the stray bullet.
The shooter.
Yeah. And people that were injured and people.
Yeah.
It's a crazy, crazy time period, dude. We live in a South Park episode. Like, South Park, those guys, Trey Parker, Matt
that whole
Stone,
thing yesterday, bro, that's South Park.
Dude, yeah, like, exactly. Like, this chanting USA after he gets up. And, you know, I've seen interviews with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and they say, we just try to make the most extreme views of every side of something when they're making an episode. They just try to think, what's the most extreme, like, out-of-pocket way to go about this? And that's how... And those things become similar to reality because people are just fucking nuts, especially nowadays. People are so riled up. And to chant USA after the guy just got shot that's running for president, like, what? How does that...
And someone's dead in the front row.
Someone's dead, yeah. But how does that make... How does that... It's not pandemonium. It's not people clearing out. It's not people, like, trying to get help. You know, it's... They're like... Oh, there's a shot. Oh my God, he got hit. USA!
Yeah.
USA! Like, what the fuck?
Well, they saw him pump his fist, bro, and they were all pumped up, dude.
Dude, it's crazy. It is crazy. We live in a
When I saw that video, dude, and they started chanting, I was literally like, this can't be real, right?
Yeah.
Like, Dude gets shot at, gets hit in the ear, gets up, pumps his fist. So 70-year-old, by the way.
Yeah.
And everyone just starts chanting USA. You know, it's like I've done like fake USA chances, like jokes before, you know, man, like USA, USA, whatever. And they actually did one like right after something like that happened.
Well, dude, I mean, it's
a meme, bro.
It's a meme, and it puts our country into just such an interesting light. But that is what America, you know, the crazy, the chaos. Like, America is chaos. That's what it seems like. Like, we just convey and thrive in these kind of chaotic, crazy situations. But I really hope that people can find the middle ground and not the extreme points. And I would be curious to take a survey of all the people that support Trump that actually know that he's the one that enacted warp speed, you know, like, because, I mean, you think of the Trump supporter, like the big, like, MAGA guy, you think of someone that's against the vaccines, you think, and it's really interesting. It's like,
well, I think they don't look into stuff like that.
No, they take it at face value.
Yeah. They look into, this guy said he's going to make America great again. He has a lot of charisma, and
he says all the things we want to hear, right?
Yeah, he's very like pro-America,
right?
Which is,
we need that.
We need that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people look past the other stuff because of that.
Right.
Because he is very like, I think he does love America, you know, and he shows that very hard. Like, that's his thing, is that America first, you know, that's like his whole thing.
His whole, like, yeah.
And I think people look past all the other stuff because they agree with that one thing.
That point. But that's what politicians have always done, is say this and do the other. And he's just another person that does that, but does it in such a way that he sells you on the idea.
Well, I mean, his whole, I don't know if his PR team or if it's him, whatever, the whole Make America Great Again thing, that's like the greatest advertising in politics I've ever, in my lifetime, that I've seen, where like people follow a thing like that, like blindly follow, you know what I mean? Like they will blindly follow that to death, and it's insane.
How much merch did he sell, bro?
Yeah, exactly. Like, advertising is scientific, bro.
Yeah.
And you just do it the right way, you can convince a lot of the population, whatever the fuck you want them to convince them.
Bill Hicks has a great joke about marketing and people who work in marketing. And I'm not going to quote it because it would probably get us demonetized in the future and get this. But it's a hilarious joke. It's a hilarious joke. And he talks about, if you were in marketing, then but look up Bill Hicks marketing.
Bill Hicks?
Yeah, it's really funny. But I hate to see that people can be pushed to such extremes by people that have no concern for their well-being, you know? And I hate to see that some kid felt that he needed to go do that. And I want to know what brought someone to like that point of, I should go do this. This is something I should go do. And I want to know, I would be really curious to see what effect his social media had on him. What entertainment and kind of media did he interact with to get him to that point? What did he involve himself with to get him to that point? Like, those are questions I'd really like to know the answer to, because social media has more of an effect on our lives than anything else nowadays.
Yeah.
And we know so little, I feel like, about the dark sides of it. You know, we see the average stoner, how they act when they interact with social media, but we don't see the kid with mental problems who it has a hard life that interacts with negativity all the time, that becomes a shooter or something, you know? Like,
I mean, it's so, like I said earlier, though, it's so individualized, it's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, there's no way.
Like, because like, there's stuff, there's probably stuff on his that would never ever show up on any of, like, on my YouTube.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get the same daily topic type shit, but you wouldn't get the, like, I mean, somebody like that, they have to watch, like, gore video. I feel like they have to be exposing themselves to really dark shit to get to that point. Like, I don't see any other way.
And, like, communities that, you know, are super extreme, Yeah. And when you feel a lack of identity, you need something to identify with.
Yeah.
And that's the only place that feels welcoming to you, or
and you
whatever.
have hate in your heart.
Yeah.
But it's just scary, man, because I'm about to be raising a kid in this world, and I really want for them to be successful and be separated from that. And I will be involved enough in my kids' life, they will never get to that point, I hope. But there's so much more to life than what you see on your phone and what's sold to us. So.
I think a good lesson to take from all the social media talk is just take a step back and get your opinions from your own life and not from other people on the internet.
Absolutely.
And then
we'll see what's to come from all the damage that was done in 2020.
Yeah. But thank you guys for listening.